Okay. Good afternoon. This is Deanne back, and this is the Composite. In the middle of my commute, I just kind of was like, listen, I want to do the show today at a decent hour, and I'm not sure what time I'm going to get home. So I am at an undisclosed location in New York City. I hope everyone's doing well. We're in season 4, and this is episode 3. So listen, I won't have any poems today, and I won't be pulling any cards. But I do have a few things that I wanted to touch base on. This might be a shorter episode. But the first thing is to remind you all that we've got a massive interview coming up with my friend, multifaceted artist and writer, Jasminum McMullen. And pardon my voice, I think I'm getting sick. I think this commute is finally taking its toll on the last day that I have to do it. So c'est la vie. But we have that interview coming up on Friday, June 21st at 5 p.m. And we'll talk to her about her work. Again, she works in multiple mediums, and she lives in Chicago, and really highlights the intersection between Black queerness and Christianity, again, as well as being multimedia, right? So we're going to talk about the visual, talk about her prose. It's really going to be a great discussion. I will post links to her bio. I just haven't had the time, so my apologies. But that is coming. I just wanted to make you aware of that. So super excited that that's going to happen. Now, the second thing is a colleague actually is so generous. She brings all these books. And I'm a sucker. I can't resist them. So I decided, like maybe 40 minutes ago, to do a giveaway. I don't know how giveaways work, number one. Number two, I think some of these are advanced copies. I'm not sure if I can give them away. I don't want to get in trouble. But these books are available and they look amazing. Alright, so the first one that I have here is called Caledonian Road by Andrew O'Hagan. Right? So Caledonian Road by Andrew Hagan. If you want that, just send me a DM. I guess I can just put it in the mail. And I would read these books myself, but I'm going to be moving and downsizing, so I literally cannot take any more books. All right, that one looks great. And this one by Devika Reggae. I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly. And this one's called Quarter Life. Right, Devika Reggae, Quarter Life. Pardon me. This one is called The Nansen Factor, Refugee Stories by Alexandra Grab. Sorry. So there's that, The Hansen Factor. Broiler by Eli Cranor. Broiler. And last but not least, we have Old King by Maxim Loskotov. Maxim Loskotov, I believe. Right? That looks very interesting, very intriguing. All right, so if you want to know anything more about any of these books, if you want me to just put it in the mail and send it to you, send me a DM. Now this broadcast is going live on Tuesday, the 18th, so I could definitely have it to you like by the weekend. I don't know how many people are going to watch this by then, but those books are available. So there's that. Now the last thing that I wanted to discuss directly were a couple of articles that I ran into that were of concern. All right, so I'm just going to turn the camera around so you can see what I'm looking at here. It says, hopefully you can hear me, a 3-theater defense strategy, how America can prepare for war in Asia, Europe, and the Middle East. All right, by Thomas Yankin. All right, I've never heard of him before, but apparently he is a military expert. He writes a ton of foreign policy articles, you know, as it relates to our military. I was just kind of checking news headlines, and I went down a rabbit hole, and the rabbit hole brought me to this article, right? So here's the thing. This article is available at foreignaffairs.com, so I'll post a link to it. It's behind a paywall, but if you give them your email, they'll just send it to you. And, you know, there's some things that I'm wondering about. I'm an English teacher. I'm definitely not a policy expert, but yeah, this article's alarming, to say the least. Trying to bring you some more positive content as of late, but you know, c'est la vie, it is what it is today. All right, so I'll just read a couple of quotes. So the first is a paragraph because I have questions about this paragraph. It says, "The switch was misguided then, but is especially out of step today. The United States is currently involved in 2 wars, Ukraine's in Europe and Israel's in the Middle East, while facing the prospect of a 3rd war over Taiwan or South Korea in East Asia." So let's pause there. Now, I don't know if that is moving the goalposts, but when I've heard our politicians speak about Ukraine and Israel, it's always in the sense of financial support. They don't actually verbalize that we're involved. This article verbalizes we're involved, and then it's like, and then we'll throw in Taiwan or South Korea, whatever pops off. It's just like very cavalier, right? Because the whole premise of the article, from what I have read, I read it carefully as I can, and I annotated it. So essentially the article, the premise is that we've made missteps in our modern foreign policy as it comes to defense and war, because we're only ever prepared for one conflict, and he's saying that we have to be prepared to switch off basically between different wars and to have different wars going simultaneously. And nowhere in this piece does the idea of diplomacy come up. Nowhere does anyone question, is this sustainable for the American people? Does the American public have the appetite for this? And so, you know, I found that, you know, unsettling overall. But if we continue in this paragraph, it says, all 3 theaters are vital to U.S. interests, and they are all intertwined. Past efforts to deprioritize Europe and disengage from the Middle East have weakened the U.S. security. But what are actual U.S. aims? Like, what are our goals, right? Is it just to dominate the whole planet, or do we have domestic, internal goals to improve anything here at all? Yeah, I don't know. Now, the U.S. military drawdown in the Middle East, for instance, has created a vacuum that Tehran has filled eagerly. A failure to respond to aggression in one theater can be interpreted as a sign of American weakness. And so, sorry if you can't hear me. This particular sentence was of interest because he's positioning us either as the victim or the aggressor. There have to be more options, again, you know, as it comes to diplomacy. And so that's something I was thinking about. And then they throw Obama under the bus basically later in the paragraph because it didn't enforce a red line about chemical weapons in Syria. So he's implying that that was a definite moment of decline because, you know, things that we threatened didn't have any teeth. But I have to say, of all the issues that I had with Barack Obama as a president, I actually agreed with his foreign policy stances a little bit more than anything else he did. So there's that. And then here it says, toward the end of the paragraph. And the United States adversaries are cooperating with one another. Iran sells oil to China. China sends money to North Korea, and North Korea sends weapons to Russia. Well, wait, time out, because we're still buying the majority of our products from China. So he's saying, oh, well, you know, we've got to change to a three-theater defense strategy, including looping Asia in with the Middle East and Europe, because China is an adversary. But if China is such a big adversary, why are they so integral to our economy? So that doesn't make any sense to me. And then here, I'm just trying to get the highlights, because I would really suggest, you go and read his words for yourself, but there was very little here that I agreed with. Pardon me. And then they're talking about munitions. It says, the war in both Gaza and Ukraine have shown that modern conflict is munitions intensive and protracted. So wouldn't that be a reason to have less war and not more, if you know that you're going to be bogged down and have to really run through, a lot of munitions, so on and so forth. And then the couple of things that I had the most issue with, right? So it says here, he's basically arguing to collapse the weapons approval between the State Department and the Defense Department to streamline the process of getting weapons and munitions to our allies and at home. But I don't want the State Department and the Defense Department to be one thing. Like, no. I appreciate checks and balances, the very few that we actually have remaining. And then this sentence here, from a different paragraph, fulfilling foreign munition sales before meeting the needs of the U.S. Army forces may seem harmful to American interests, even when those countries made their purchases first. So he goes on a tear basically saying that if our allies are fighting a mutual enemy, that they should get priority for weapons over us, because they're doing us a solid basically by dealing with our enemies. And again, I don't like collapsing allied interests to the point where it's almost like a one-for-one. Oh, if the U.S. is doing this, then the UK is doing that. And then, if the U.S. is doing this, then, another ally is doing that. I think the different countries should rightly have different interests. You have different populations that you're supposed to be serving. And then, I'm not a military strategist, but I feel like that would make us weaker. And I think we're getting weaker now, right? Basically all Russia is doing is clocking us out, right? In terms of we're sinking money, resources, so on and so forth, into Ukraine, and they're just going to wait us out. That's what it feels like. So if all of our enemies know, okay, the U.S. is not going to take us head on, they'll do it, basically outsource it to subsidiaries, aka allies, right? All right, so as an enemy, I'm trying to articulate this correctly. So if I know the U.S. is not going to attack me directly, right, I can maybe start a bunch of little skirmishes, right, but protracted ones, so not like massive wars, just medium-sized wars, right? Start medium-sized wars, And now I know that they're giving the weapons to the allies. Their homeland is open, right? I mean, I think that this 3-theater strategy, I think, sounds like it leaves the homeland more open to attack, right? If we're on a timeshare or basically a zip car with, all of our, I don't know what you call fighter jets, and I'm forgetting the name, but, artillery, whether it's naval ships, so on and so forth, like, if those are all occupied other places, and obviously it wouldn't be all of them, but enough to really put our defenses down here, it just, the whole article just reeks of a deprioritization of the American people and a domestic agenda about anything. Excuse me. And then it says, Washington can encourage these countries to keep expanding production by making sure they know that when they do need U.S. wares, their orders won't be treated as second class. So yeah, these are giveaways to defense contractors. And then later on, it's talking about giving an example of a partnership that we have with Australia. So it's saying that the deal has made it clear that American manufacturers are not large enough or capable enough to modernize the U.S. submarine fleet as well as build submarines for Australia, prompting Australia to invest $3 billion in expanding the United States submarine industrial base. Okay, so it's like, we know that the U.S. builds submarines that we want, but because they don't have the capacity, let's give them money to expand the capacity. It's such a conflict of interest, right? Because, I mean, I am definitely not a proponent of war, but if we were to be attacked, I would want to know that our submarines were being prioritized for America and not prioritized for Australia. All right, and so I thought this was really unsettling overall. And again, apologies about my voice. It's a little hoarse here all of a sudden. And then he talks toward the very end of the article about the ways in which we are modernizing our approach to warfare and how we're like basically sharing all that information with our allies. That just is a securities risk within itself, right? Because listen, we know that Trump was selling those documents. The ones that were in Florida, there was no other reason for him to take them. He was selling them. Now, fast forward to what Thomas Mencken here is talking about. Like, if we are that in bed with our allies, that we're sharing bases, sharing submarines, sharing munitions, and sharing intel and strategy as soon as we create it with allies, do you imagine how much money somebody would pay Trump for that? It's a complete monopoly, imperialistic monopoly, and in my opinion, a security nightmare. Do any of these countries even have leadership that we trust enough with this information? So yeah, this is a problem. And then in relation to that, I saw a headline that hold on a second. Sorry, folks. This is what happens when you work in public. So you live and you learn. But like I said, I wanted to do the show at a decent hour. All right. So the other article that I found that I wanted to point out to folks. All right. So this is just one article. You can find this information other places. But it says the internet confuses people over U.S. military draft changes. Here is the truth. And so this is from the Independent. Now I have to say I'm less familiar with that publication. I've only read it maybe not even a half dozen times, maybe 3 or 4 times. I don't know if it leans left or right. The Googles says it leans left, but you can look into that a little bit more deeply. I just wanted to have an understanding of what the draft changes were, like in terms of what's being proposed and what the effect might be on young people. Since I work with young people, I care about young people. All right, and so it says here, Congress has not voted to make U.S. women eligible for conscription, and nor has it resolved to automatically enroll all young American men into the military draft database, at least not yet. So let me get this straight. These sons of bitches can't automatically register you to vote, but they want to automatically register men between the ages of 18 to 25 to go to war? Unbelievable. That's disgusting. That's disgusting. Total lack of priorities here. All right, so here's the thing. There are two bills right now. It says last Friday, the Republican-controlled House passed a new version of the National Defense Authorization Act. So the NDAA, you might have heard of that, right? So it was up for renewal, I guess, and they passed a new version of it. So that's the Republican-controlled House, right? And what they want to do is automatically pull public records from other federal databases and say, okay, if we call these databases, who is an eligible male between 18 and 25, and then automatically register them, okay? So other than the problem I just stated with, okay, we can, automatically register people for war, basically, but not to vote. So that's a problem I have with it. Another problem that I have with it is that none of these folks should be automatically registered for shit. You have disabled people, you have people on the autism spectrum, you have people that have religious objections, you have people that are transitioning. It should be a conversation. They shouldn't automatically be registered. And then now there is another version of this bill, right, with the Senate Armed Forces Committee. And the version from the Senate Armed Forces Committee includes women. So that one includes women. So you can't get an abortion, and some people want to make it so you can't get birth control, but they can register your ass to go to war. This country can be pretty despicable sometimes. I love it, but it pushes me. It pushes me very much. Anything else I want to read from this? No. Okay, so why am I doing both of these articles together? Okay, so the first article, the foreign policy article by Thomas Mencken, that was on June 5th. These proposals to change the registration for the draft are from today, okay, are from June 18th. Yeah, ring the alarm. Okay, folks, you know what time it is. I would say they're gearing up within the next year for something to pop off. Because why have this guy declare, oh yeah, we're not going hard enough in terms of war. We need to prepare for a 3-theater war. What? When politicians from both parties, I was going to say purport to try to be a little more peaceful. I don't know. I feel like that toward the end of last year that went out of the window. But I just think that I saw both of these articles at the same time for a reason. And I think these things are happening simultaneously for a reason. So hopefully that gives you a little bit to think about. I'll link to these in the description. Again, couple of reminders. One, episode 5, season 4, episode 5 will be on Friday, the 21st at 5 p.m. And we have our first big interview with Jasminum McMullen. Please check us out. She's a wonderful artist and an amazing person, a very thoughtful person. I think you'll enjoy a lot of what she has to say, and she's doing other interviews as well, so a lot of really wonderful synergy around her work, and she's going to be coming out in an anthology. I believe it's out now already, but I'll link to that as well. She's got a bunch of really wonderful stuff cooking. And then the second thing is, just as a reminder, like I said, hold on. I've got books. I've got books to give away. So if you would like a book, if you would like more information about a book, please just send me a note, okay? And so thanks as always to anybody who watches the playback of this on Instagram or on YouTube. This has been The Composite. I'm Deanne Battle. This is season 4, episode 3, all right? And take care. I'll see you Thursday at 5.